Hello, welcome to another episode of Stories with Shomik. We are on episode 3, which statistically makes us amongst the top 20% of content creators in the podcast space in the world. So we made it. This was literally my only goal. Well, not my only goal, but this was one of the early goals that I had for the podcast. So here we are. Big win. Today's guest is someone very special. Her name is Arunie Saldhi. Did I get your last name right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I don't know why I thought I messed it up. Welcome to the show. Usually I introduce the guests, but you have a lot of things that you do,
Oh
and it
gosh.
is a very comprehensive list, and I was afraid of missing out on things. So we will change the format up a little bit this time, and we will have you introduce yourself. And I should have warned you about this earlier, and I did, but that was part of the plan. Over to you.
Okay, I'm also going to forget something, but I am a registered provisional psychologist by day. So I work with like in my private practice, I work with high performers and founders, and I also work with nonprofits around Calgary because now I live in Calgary. And the main nonprofit that I work with is focusing on family violence, domestic violence, addiction, and mental health solely for South Asian clients, and we provide free counseling to them. And what else do I do? Oh, I have a podcast of my own with my
Yeah, let's hear about it.
with my really good friend Scheherazade, and it's called Brown Girl Problems. And
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly as the title suggests. We talk about brown girl problems and eventually brown boy problems. So you're on that episode whenever that happens.
Oh shit,
Yeah, you can
that
talk.
was not my intention when I invited you, but I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah, you made it because you come to our podcast now. Um, and I work with other organizations around Toronto and Calgary that want to focus about mental health in the workplace. So that's also kind of like my side hustle in a sense, but I just love doing it because I get to go to organizations and talk about the importance of mental health. So yeah, that
Amazing, amazing,
I kept
very
it.
very cool.
Thank
Well,
you.
I mean, we got all the time. The cloud has enough storage for this one episode. So, but thank you for introducing yourself. The reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is there's a few reasons. But number one being all the work that you do in the mental health space. Number two is you went from tech to mental health, which is we'll get more into that because I am curious. Is that based on what you experienced in the tech industry? No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And
Spoiler.
also to talk more about your podcast because maybe I shouldn't say this as the host of a podcast, but I typically zone out when I listen to podcasts. For me, like most of the key takeaways, I will not have them because I zoned out for most of it. But yours is one of the very few podcasts, and by very few I mean two, that I have actually sat and listened to from the start to end, and really really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot from it,
Gosh.
and yeah, so whatever you two are doing is working because it had me completely dialed in, and I learned a lot about brown girl problems. I think it's an awesome show. You've had some very cool guests, and both of you are amazing hosts.
Oh my God.
Um,
Thank you so much for saying that. That's so kind. I don't even know how to process that compliment because I never thought I would have a podcast. Like, you see all the memes about it, and I never
yeah.
thought I would be one of those people, but I genuinely love doing it and having those conversations. I don't like the content creation part of it. That's very
Hmm.
difficult for me, and for Shez, but yeah, I love the podcast and I'm so happy that you like it. That makes me
Yeah.
so happy.
How did you get into it? First off, how did you meet your co-host?
So we actually worked together at a big fintech startup back in the
Hmm.
day. And yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to, whatever. We worked at Well Simple together and she sat next
Big
to me.
fan of the product.
Yeah, me too. I still use it, so me too. Um, and yeah, she started like a couple months after me, and she sat next to me. And back then we were on the same team, So we used to put like a lot of late nights together, like just working. And then we found that like towards the end of the night, it was just her and I, and we could just like sit and chat and talk. And honestly, we just, as any brown girls listening would know, you just like find a brown girl and you talk about things that you can't, like secret relationships and things you have to hide and all these things that are so just normal for us to do. So we started talking about it, and I since obviously have pivoted careers, but whenever her and I would catch up, we would like I'll just talk about it. And then one day I just messaged her and I was like, should we have a podcast called like Brown Girl Problems? And she's like, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing. And I was like, that's what
Amazing.
it is. And we're like, let's do it. No idea what to do. Let's do it. And so here we are.
Amazing. I love that. And you guys have done a couple of seasons now, haven't you?
Yeah, we're on season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And how many episodes do you have?
Right now we have 10. We have a couple more that I'm in the process of editing, working on it slowly. But we just took a pause right now with everything kind of going on in the world. But we'll be back, when things feel a little bit, I don't know, better, lighter. We're less busy looking at just awful things going around in the world. Sorry, this took a dive. I'll bring it back and make it lighter.
No, that's completely fair. And if I usually say if we have 4 listeners to this podcast, it's a bonus. So if we get our 4 listeners and they want to listen to Brown Girl Problems, where can they find it?
You can find it on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and you can find us on Instagram. That's probably our most active social media site. We have a TikTok. I feel like a boomer because I don't know how to use TikTok, like I swear to God. But Instagram's kind of where you can find us.
Keep up with the times, Arunie. Come on.
I know. I'm trying.
It's okay. First of all, TikTok is not that hard to use, so you really shouldn't have. Okay, yeah, that I can agree with. It is definitely a little intimidating, but it's not hard to use.
No, I know. Like 12-year-olds are using it. I should be able to like figure it out. I'm just scared. It's very scary out there.
Hey, we're the same age, aren't we?
Yeah,
I think we are.
Yeah.
In and around, if not exactly the same. So there's no excuse to not be able to do TikTok.
Yeah, you're right. There's just always an excuse if you search hard enough.
So. Yeah, fair enough. So tell me more about the pivot from tech. When did that happen and why did that happen?
Honestly, it's not that exciting of a story, I don't think, because it was, for me, I always knew I was going to be a psychologist. Like I always knew I was going to be a therapist. I have a very strong memory of being in grade 7, telling like my best friend at the time, like, I'm going to grow up and be a therapist, and have like no idea what it meant. But I just remember being like, I can talk to people and I love listening to people and I'm going to be a therapist because that's all I thought it was. And once I graduated from my undergrad from Waterloo, I took a break. We moved out to Calgary with my parents and I didn't know what to do. So I started in finance and I genuinely liked it. And I just worked my way up, and I had what I call my quarter life crisis, where I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I just genuinely was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I applied for a master's in counseling psychology and applied to Simple in Toronto. And I was like, whatever I get, I'm just going to do. And that will be my life. And I got into both and I said, let's do both. Like, why not? So the entire time I was working at Simple, I was doing my master's online in the evenings and weekends. And I think basically the only thing left in my master's was the practicum portion. And I just wasn't, which is when you actually are out in the field and you're working with clients. I kept pushing it off because I just wasn't ready to leave finance. Like I wasn't ready to leave fintech. I genuinely loved the company. I loved my coworkers. I loved the work I was doing. I was living in downtown Toronto and I loved the lifestyle. I just wasn't ready to let it go. And I was like running out, like the master's program was like, you got to make a decision. Like you can't just be sitting on this forever, because I was done all my courses. And then the pandemic happened. And then I just felt like it was decided, like, this is the right time to kind of pivot out and move back home. So I did. I moved to Calgary. And then I kind of just decided to let go of tech and kind of do what I always wanted to do.
Interesting. And I think that's around the time when we met the first time as well, was in the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think you were already in Calgary at that time.
Yeah, I think we connected online. Like I've known you for a while, but we met in the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how we got talking. Right, LinkedIn. Yeah. LinkedIn and I
You
have
did
an
a
interest.
LinkedIn cold call.
It was a good old LinkedIn cold call. Yes, now I remember. I reached out to you just after I gotten laid off from my previous job.
Yes, yeah.
And that was during the pandemic, and I was, scouting for roles, and Simple was actually one of the companies that I wanted to work for. So if they hear this and you're hiring, just I'd still be open to a chat. Just saying. I remember that was when we connected on LinkedIn, and I should have known you would end up becoming a therapist, or maybe you're already working on it, because I remember in the first 10 minutes of the call you mentioned, hey, I know you got laid off, and I'm sure it feels like a breakup, but it's not personal, and I came out of that call going, yeah, you know what, it does feel like a breakup for no fault of mine. And then so that probably should have alerted me to the fact that you're really good at what you do.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I remember that call and being like, that was a cool person. I hope we stay connected, and like I hope he gets a job wherever he's looking for. But I just remember, I think it's nice when you talk to someone, especially through a medium like LinkedIn, and then you just connect. So that's really nice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was definitely an amazing call, and then I think we connected on Twitter, which in the pre-Musk days used to be a really, really fun platform to meet people and connect with, especially during the pandemic. And I think, and then we ended up meeting in Toronto one of the times when you were here. And you're like, okay, not just the floating head, also a cool person when you meet offline. So and I'm so glad we stayed in touch.
Yeah, and that was fun in Toronto. I want to come back and like actually make time for everyone again, because every time I come, it's like it's a wedding. So every single time, it's like, okay, go, it's a wedding. So
that's completely fair. That's completely fair. Tell me more about the type of work you're doing now. Now that you're completely out of tech, I remember one time we were like, whatever, we had one of our online catch ups post meeting, and you'd mentioned you were at that point working 2 or 3 different jobs, and just hearing you talk left me exhausted. Tell me more about what you're working on now.
Back then I think I had 5 jobs.
5?
But like not like full-time jobs, just like different things that I did. Now I have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I have 4 now, so I like go 1.
Maybe 7.
Yeah,
who knows?
Varies day by day. But just the work I do does energize me, honestly. And even when it's working with organizations, like going into organizations, especially when they want a specific topic, it's really fun for me because I get to research again, and I love research and I love reading and getting to know more about how to make a topic a little bit more approachable for everyone. So for example, right now I'm doing one on addiction, and addiction seems really scary, and we have all these like images and biases that come up, but it's also just like, okay, well, let's talk about caffeine addiction and cell phone addiction and Instagram addiction, because I'm definitely addicted to Instagram. And it's the same thing as drugs and alcohol. It's the same chemical systems in our brain. So I just like researching it and doing the work and being able to talk about it. So I just kind of keep myself busy, sometimes too busy, but I'm also working on that. So some
Yes.
months is really busy, some months it's chill. But I try to find the balance wherever I can.
Would you say wanting to stay busy is also an addiction?
Yeah, I would say so. Oof.
Just this is for the people that are listening and tend to want to stay busy all the time. Maybe you have an addiction. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think
Also,
for
feel free to just stop me immediately if I say something about mental health that is completely wrong, because
no,
this is obviously not my wheelhouse. So I don't
no,
want to
you have
say
to say
anything.
whatever comes to mind. That's the whole point. No, don't worry about it. You're not gonna unless
Yeah,
you.
yeah. When I say stop me, I mean just correct me if I say something completely wrong.
No, it's
Because
more fun this way if you say something wrong. I'm like, haha. Just
amazing.
cancel.
Wow. Okay, you know what? This being cancelled thing is a very legitimate concern of mine. Not that I've said or done anything or I'm important enough to get cancelled, but it's just like someone will find something I said or did in a few years when maybe I have things that I care about that I would be afraid to lose, and it's just gone because someone said, "Oh, you said this is bad, but what about the 20,000 other things going on
Yeah.
in the world?" Speaking of which, what do you think about this whataboutism that goes on and has basically left no room for nuance on social media?
That was a big pivot. I thought you were gonna make a joke and you were like, what about this really serious question?
If everything's a joke, then nothing's a joke. So I have to measure my punchlines before I throw them out.
Wow. Oh my God. Social media. Actually, I had someone else reach out and ask me about this because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why people think I would have anything good to say about this except my own opinions. I just feel like people's mental health really suffers with this pressure of showing up, and including my own. I feel like for me, like if I don't take a stance on social media, I feel pressured internally, like, oh my God, people are expecting something of me. But at the same time, if all I can do is post something on my story, I feel personally, and not that everyone feels this way, I feel really shitty that that's all I can do. And I'm like, try to tell myself, like, you're showing up for people, you're advocating, you're educating, but realistically, like, how much effort is it to post something or share something, and then you just feel like that's it, that's all I can do in the world? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
Does it
very
feel like armchair activism?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It does,
Yeah.
because there are people out there that are, and I don't call myself an activist for that reason. I
Mm-hmm.
have strong opinions and I will say it when I'm asked, but yeah, it just feels like you're just on the sidelines, and I wish I could do more and I want to do more, but at the same time I am also limited by my own um what's the word? Like my life, I don't know, my choices, my profession. So it's just a
Yeah.
lot of things that limit us, and things in my head, right? Things that I say I can't do because I thought I can't do it.
For
So,
sure. For
yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's like, especially in the context of everything that's been going on in the last few weeks, uh, I am pretty conflicted because I feel like when I see someone post, I stand with insert their
Mhm.
opinion and their based on their knowledge base and lived experiences. A part of me is like, you with your 300 Instagram followers, what exactly are you doing here? Like,
Yeah.
how does this change anything? If anything, um, it's if you have objectively racist or whatever,
Yeah.
p- incorrect opinions based on what the other side thinks, um, you've now fractured that relationship because this isn't really do you want pineapple on pizza or not? This is a little more of a serious
Yeah.
topic. If anything, you've outed yourself as someone who would be dangerous to this group,
Mhm.
in another lifetime, hopefully, and not this one. But at the same time, I'm also thinking I'm not important enough. Who cares what I think? Like, by me putting this up, is it just performative? Does it actually help? How does it actually help? Yeah, these are the questions that keep me up at night.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that, like, speaking of the specific things that are happening around the world right now, like, I come from a place of a lot of privilege where no one in my family is immediately affected by anything. So, yeah, like, I can post it. Yeah, like, I have very limited followers. I have a closed Instagram, you know. So it's like, I think it's just showing up for people and showing up for an issue that I do care about. But at the same time, it's like, I try to hope that the person that I am and the person that you are, the people in your life would already know which side you stand on many issues.
Yeah,
That I don't need to post about it, where it's like, okay, if there's injustice happening or oppression happening, that's different than some other random political thing. Um, I don't know, something that's less serious and causing
yeah,
less harm to people. I don't know.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I feel it more, especially in the times, like you're on my Instagram. I typically try and keep things light. I'm sharing things that I find funny because
Hmm.
I live for the memes. Um, Before Instagram became a thing and we used to download stuff from 9gag, I had a separate entire folder of memes that I used to go back and look at because it cracks me up.
Love that.
And, and it feels weird sharing something that is just randomly funny in a time like this, because like actually someone called me out on it last week. They're like, do you really want to be sharing this in a time of conflict? And funnily enough, they had nothing to do with both of the sides. It
Hmm.
was, and I was like, well, in my head, I was like, well, go fuck yourself. But
Yeah.
I just left it at scene because I'm a little non-confrontational that way.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I would have done the
and
same.
it wouldn't have been worth it anyway.
Yeah,
Like, who has ever changed their mind when someone shouted at them? Not
that's
me.
fair. That's
If
fair.
anything, it just makes me want to do it more. So
Here's another meme. Here's another
here's
one.
another. Here's 10 more.
Yeah,
I
you
hope.
better laugh now.
Yeah, laugh, live your life,
Yeah.
be happy. This is all for you.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, we definitely went down a path. Okay, so tell me more about. So were you born in Canada? You
No,
moved here as an immigrant.
yeah, I was born in Delhi. Sorry, I don't say Delhi. I say Delhi. I'm sorry. People from
Why?
India always I always get
Why
yelled
is
at by people from India. They're just like, you're supposed to say Delhi because you're from there. And I was like, I say Delhi because I came when I was 7, okay? So I
yeah? You
yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
you don't have to apologize for it.
Okay, thank you.
If someone calls you out on it, send them my way.
Okay, I will.
No, please
Um,
don't. Generally, the people who are calling out, you should be saying it this way, tend to be a little too aggressive for my taste. So please don't. I was kidding.
okay, good backup, good backup. Yeah, so I was born in Delhi, came here when I was 7 with my family.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and grew up in Canada. I learned English when I was in India. So for me, I think that's always the first question people ask me, even now, is like, how come you speak English so well if you were born in India? Like, I get that all the time. And I'm like,
Really,
yeah, yeah.
still,
Still,
given so many Indians are coming to Canada, myself being one of them. Yeah, it's quite surprising.
yeah.
Huh. And so, did you move with your family to Toronto, or were you
Yeah.
always
No, no,
in
no. We
Calgary? No,
moved
okay.
into the GTA. We moved around a lot, but basically from Mississauga.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So, what was the transition? I mean, you were young enough, so maybe the experiences were different. Because I was talking to someone recently, who, like you, moved to Canada as a kid, but they were 14. which had its own challenges. This was also like 15 years ago. The landscape was very different.
Yeah.
And their transition from an Indian high school to a Canadian high school was pretty rough. And they also moved to Montreal of all places, so that didn't help.
Yeah.
So, so what was your settling in process like?
I think there was benefits because I was young.
Mm-hmm.
It was still challenging. But looking back, I am blessed to say I had a good childhood. I definitely remember instances like when we first moved to Canada, we were out in Pickering. And back then, it was very, like, our neighborhood was completely white. So me and my sister, and there was one Guyanese guy, were like the only colored people. And you could tell, like, we stood out. Like, it wasn't like there was a lot of other, I don't remember any Asian kids. I just remember like white people all around me. And for the most part, they were very nice and welcoming. But again, it was they, I think for my parents, they were treated with a little bit more like, it was more what am I trying to say? What's the word?
Condescending.
Condescending. I kept trying to say condensation.
I was waiting for you to say it.
I was like,
so that I could say like the milk. But
yeah, I was like, condensation. That's not right. Yeah, but like it was a little condescending. But overall, everyone was very welcoming. When I moved to Mississauga, there was, of course, we're in a very multicultural community. I learned a lot about other cultures, but I also learned about how the biases and the stereotypes and the stigma people had about my own culture and my own like religion and the way that I look and the way I was supposed to act. So there was a lot that I had to navigate around, I think, as someone who, I think of myself as Canadian, but I wasn't as Canadian as my friends in university who grew up watching hockey and had Thanksgiving dinners, like all these things. And I wasn't Indian enough, right? That's always what we say is like you're just kind of in the middle trying to find your way.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point about not feeling Canadian enough or not feeling Indian enough. Did you find that typically the brown uncle aunties used to give you grief about it? Or was it more like, they're figuring it out?
No, I speak Hindi now more than I ever did before. And growing like I did not sound good speaking Hindi growing up. And I also wanted to assimilate like really well into Canadian culture. So I didn't want to speak Hindi. I wanted to speak English. So yeah, the brown uncle aunties definitely had comments about that. I think my saving grace though was, as all good Indian girls, we had to either sing or dance or something. So I did every dance under the sun. So that was my saving. Yeah, I don't anymore, but I used to.
Okay, I didn't know that. I learned something new today. What was your favorite type of dance?
No, it was all just like, I'm not good. It was just all Bollywood dance. It was just like, oh, we're having a Diwali party. You're going to do a performance with your cousin who was equally miserable doing this. We both are just like so grumpy doing this performance for like 10 years of our life. And then when we got to university, I think I had a couple more. And then I was like, oh, I'm so busy. I can't do it. And then I stopped. But yeah.
But do you enjoy the Bollywood dance parties now? Not like the organized Diwali things that your parents made you do, which is funny because that is common across the world. Every Indian parent will tell you to do something and you have to do it in front of 100 strangers.
Hundreds of people, yeah.
Just like there has to be something that causes generational trauma to all the kids across the board. Like there's no way everybody wants to be a performer, but we've all been made to either sing or dance.
Yeah.
Or narrate poetry.
Oh my God, the poetry. I've done that. The worst one was when I had to sing because I cannot sing to save my life. Like
there's only one way to know. You'll have to sing now.
No, I'm gonna hang up. Like trust me, I cannot sing. And my grandma's a Mathur, so we had Mathur functions, and there's Mathurs around Toronto. So if they're listening, shout out to Mathur function. But we had
Yeah.
to, but we had to do 1 year where we had to sing, and it was traumatizing because I did not want to at all. I would much rather do like a bad dance, but they made us sing.
What did you sing?
Oh, I think I erased it from my memory. I have no idea. Could not tell you.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, amongst the Bengalis, well, like as you know, I'm Bengali.
Mhm.
You know, the emphasis on arts is pretty high, and
Mhm.
in my family, it's I can't quite explain it. Maybe I'm adopted. Uh, except me, everyone's an incredible dancer. I can't dance to save my life,
Really?
but everyone, the men, the women, everybody, and they will start dancing at the drop of a beat.
Yeah.
Everyone's ready to go, and I was like, man, I can't dance to save my life, and which fortunately my parents realized pretty early on and decided not to push. But my mother insisted that I can sing well, so I just
Oh,
had to be sent to things. I can't sing well. It was I can.
only one way to prove it.
You just have to take my word for it. But like I was decent enough to do backup vocals when I was in a band, but not more than that. Like I'm good to sing that one word as needed. But yeah, so she wanted me to sing, and all those music classes that we
Oh
get
yeah.
sent to twice a week, all that nonsense. And then I said, no, I don't want to sing, but I do want to learn to play the guitar. And she heard that and said, got it, harmonium. And I got put in a class at like he is, I mean, not was, he's still very much alive and thriving. He's a very sweet gentleman, used to come to teach me harmonium every week, and I used to hate it. Like for
Yeah, I
me,
bet.
I was like, I don't want to learn this, I want to do something cool. But
Harmony
it
is so cool.
yeah, totally, there's something about it. Yeah, I just yeah, so that was 3 years of my life where every week I was like, I don't want to do this, but here I am. And
Mm.
then eventually as I got to, I think, age 14 is when I was like, you know what, this is enough.
Yeah.
I'm a teenager, but in my head I was like, I'm a man, I need to be I have a deeper voice now, and I'm taller than you, mother, so you got to listen to me.
Yeah.
And then eventually they agreed and said, okay, you can learn to play the guitar,
Oh.
which also turned out to be. So I actually ended up doing it out of fear because I went in for the first week of class, realized I hate the traditional structure of teaching where you do the whole basic scale, whatever. I wanted to be a rock star from day one. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to class anymore because this is boring. But I
That's what rock
was
stars do. They skip class.
exactly that is what kids. Actually, my nephews and nieces might listen. Don't skip class. It's not a rock star thing to do.
No.
It's cool to do your lessons, but think objectively. Use your brain, but do your lessons.
Yeah.
Don't skip it, please. Um, but yeah, so I ended up. That was when YouTube was just becoming a more mainstream
Mm.
thing. So I learned on YouTube, and I was like, okay, I can still learn because I was mainly terrified if I told my mother I wasn't going to keep learning that she would break the guitar on my head,
Mm.
and just tell me how expensive it was. So it's like I would rather not deal with this lecture, and I ended up. But no, so far so good. I'm still playing.
That's
I play a
awesome.
little bit on and off. But yeah. Speaking of which, what do you like to do for hobbies? What helps Arunie keep her mental health? I was gonna say intact, but largely in shape.
In shape. Well, the love of my life is my dog. His name's Mr. Tyson. He's
The
he
cutest.
the cutest little guy with the little one floppy ear. He's 11 years old. So my favorite part is actually walking with him. And obviously we go a little bit slower now,
Mhm.
but going for walks, I love doing. I used to hike a lot because I'm in Alberta now. So
Shout
I
out to mountains. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yo, I love the mountains. Every time I'm there, I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I just never get tired of the view. Have you been
Yeah.
to Banff?
I haven't come out west yet, but soon. 2024 summer.
Yeah, do it. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful, and I'm honestly like I don't hike as much as I should anymore, but I used to a lot. Um, so I still like doing that. And one thing that I've always loved, again with the arts, I think influenced by my mother too, is she'd always like push us to just do things. I'm not good at these things, but I just genuinely enjoy them. So lately what I've been doing is paint by numbers because I just want to do something
Love
artistic.
those.
I
Yeah.
love them. And I just like want to put on TV or like watch a movie or like listen to a podcast, but like also be painting and not
Yeah.
feel like I need to be creative and like open that door. So I just do that and I really enjoy it, honestly.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a thing that's been ingrained into our systems that we need to do everything well.
yeah.
And that's objectively not true. We don't need to do that. And big fan of paint by numbers. I actually started doing them during the pandemic
Oh yeah?
because all I did was either work staring at a screen or watch Netflix also staring at a screen. And I needed to cut screen time somewhere.
Yeah.
And I went on to Amazon, found a few paint by numbers. The first one I did, I loved it. It's actually hanging on actually, let me show it. This is only for video podcast episode people.
Ooh. Oh my god, I have
It's
painted
good,
that
right?
exact same paint by numbers.
Yes, it's the one of the first ones that pops up on Amazon. So
Yeah,
the
I've done that
SEO
exact same
is on
one.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's so relaxing. And but when I started doing it, I wasn't staying within the lines, and I was
Mm,
getting upset with myself because like I'm not doing a good job. And then I had to remind myself saying I don't have to be good at this. No one's going to look at it.
yeah.
And then it became a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So it's, that was my wild Saturday night. Is my mom was watching Big Boss, as she does, because she
Is it
loves it.
still on?
Okay, listen, it's nonstop in my house because it just started again and I absolutely hate it. Like with a passion, I hate the show.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
watched full seasons with her because it's on. But I hate it. I hate it so
It's
much.
it is terrible. Yeah, I didn't even know it's still running.
Oh, they're never
Like,
gonna stop it.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it has a certain audience that is tuning in
And my
every
mom
night.
is like very spiritual and a very calm lady. And then she watches Big Boss. And I don't understand like how she can watch this because when I watch them, like I get angry. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, if I was in this house, like this is what I would respond with. And I get like heated on behalf of these contestants. And my mom's just like just sitting and like watching it. And I'm like, this woman has reached nirvana. Like she's just watching
Well,
this.
maybe that's her exercise. That's her mental exercise. That's how she exercises staying calm. She watches them, and then it's like it's not that bad anywhere else in her day to day, and everything is just a lot better.
Yeah, maybe. I'll ask her. I'm like, this why? But I think it's her guilty pleasure. But anyway, she was watching Big Boss and I was doing paint by
Mhm.
numbers. And I was like, wow, wild. Wild Saturday.
Honestly,
I love it.
that sounds like a pretty good Saturday to
It
me.
was. I loved
Yeah,
it. But,
maybe that's how we're getting old.
100%. I never
Yeah,
thought I'd be this person. I know
yeah,
everyone says this, but like,
yeah,
I genuinely did not think I would be this person. But
yeah.
whatever.
It's I mean, it's not a bad thing as long as you enjoy it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do anything. But fun fact, like I actually started realizing I am getting older at work. So the general demographic at my workplace is it's pretty young. Helps me, which is why I'm on top of all Gen Z slang because it's being used around me all the time,
Hmm.
and I use it with them as well. So it's an interesting spot because at work I'm with these young people who are who are all about no cap and it's giving, and then I come back and I'm hanging out with my other friends who are my age, slightly older, you know, married, have kids, and the tone of conversation is so different. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this is two different worlds. But yeah, I started realizing because I'm hiring for a couple of people on my team, and the focus is on hiring someone like typically fresh out of undergrad.
Hmm.
And when I'm interviewing them, I'm just like, wow, I'm so impressed by how well read, how well articulated these young ones are. And then I was like, wait, what do you mean young ones? And I realized that I'm a decade older than them.
Yeah.
I was like,
Wild, right?
oh,
It
this
hurts.
everything hurts. My back hurts. My neck hurts. Um, but yeah, it's been interesting seeing myself get older.
Yeah.
But tell me how you feel about this, because every time I fly back now to India to see my family, it's typically at a year and a half, 2 years break. You can see people getting older over
Hmm.
time, and growing up, these people are, in your head, they're like they'll always be the way they are. And see, it's how do you deal with that? Because give us some tips, because I feel very, very weird and sad to an extent.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. I feel it as well. And sometimes I forget what age can do to you. Because, for example, my grandma was here for 6 months, and my grandma's a very sharp lady. She always has been. And there's things that she can't do now. And I was like, you're just. You're just pretending, right? Like, you know how to work this, or you know how to turn on the TV and go to Hotstar to watch your show. Like, you know how to
Yeah,
do all this. Because she always has. Like, she was a lady I gave an iPad to, and she figured out how to use it in 5 minutes. Or I got her a cell phone
it's amazing.
years ago, and she memorized everyone's numbers and figured out how to use it. Like, she picked up things really quick. So watching and then realizing, like, oh no, she's not just like, she genuinely like cannot figure this out right now. That was sad. But then I was like, wow, that's, in a sense, it's a privilege, right? That you have reached the stage in your life where you have kind of gone through the motions, and not a lot of people can say that.
For sure. For
Even
sure.
at her age, she's doing a lot of things that other people can't. So, and even with my parents, like, I see them age, and that really breaks my heart. But again, like, they're they're chilling, they're vibing, they're living their best
Yeah,
life,
living their
and
best lives.
yeah, and I think I'm, again, also grateful the fact that I can have a new relationship with them as
Hmm.
they've aged and I've aged. Like, I think that's, like, if you told me when I was 15 that I would be like best friends with my parents to the extent that I am now, I would be like, wow. Well, not that I was ever a problem child. I didn't really have that rebellious phase in my teens. I had it later. But
Okay, we're gonna get into that.
like later, in my 20s. But yeah, like, I think it's nice to be able to be like, well, you're aging, but you're living such a beautiful life, and I get to be a part of it, and I'm just grateful to be on that journey and just
I love that.
processing that. Yeah.
I love that. Tell me more about your rebellious phase.
Oh God. It's not like a rebellious phase. I just, you know, stayed out too late and did things like that. It was so bad. But I did it after undergrad, because then I moved back with my parents, and then I was considered rebellious. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you were still out when you were in undergrad, just no one was there to say you were rebellious.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, so it's not like you started in your 20s. You've been a wildcat since you were whatever, since you got out of home.
Yeah, I was. I can say that.
Hmm, that's fair.
Tell me
And
about your rebellious phase.
I actually am as boring as they come.
Liar.
What? No, it's true. It's well, the thing is, I grew up in Mumbai, and my parents were always pretty relaxed that way. Their only ask was I keep them posted where I am,
Hmm.
and as long as that is taken care of. And so I grew up with a pretty big family, and my cousins all sort of, we all sort of grew up together. And I was the youngest in my generation, so I was
Okay.
always it was typically if I'm out late at night, it's because I'm hanging out with my brother,
Right.
and we're whatever, we're playing video games or we're out at a cafe just or out for a drive. So I was always with like my older brothers and sisters. So it wasn't really rebellious per se.
Yeah.
And then once I moved here, it was like, well, if I want to, I think the most rebellious thing I started doing when I moved was ordering pizza at 2 a.m. because I wouldn't dare to do that when I lived at home. Because
Yeah.
they would have been like, there's food at home. Why are you ordering pizza at 2 a.m.? That is the extent of my rebellion. It's
Wow.
yeah,
Good
those
for
pizza
you.
parties. Yeah, those pizza parties.
Yeah.
It's I forget which comedian it was, but like he was talking about how his parents were so chill that it just took the joy out of trying to be rebellious.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is you're rebelling against your parents for whatever. Like for example, going out to drink. That's an act of rebellion, but my parents were cool with it. They just told me to be
Yeah.
responsible and not drive.
Yeah.
So there was no real reason to be like, oh, I'm gonna show them. Like they were more than happy. They'd much rather I drink with my friends at home, and they were okay with that. And
Yeah.
and it actually became a sort of safe haven for some of my other friends where
Mhm.
they'd much rather, and they liked hanging out with my parents for that particular reason because they knew that they could be themselves and didn't have to worry that my parents would complain to their parents, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Your parents were the cool parents of the group.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So didn't really leave much room for rebellion, which
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing, truthfully.
yeah,
Like we would go to family parties every weekend in Mississauga,
hmm
and then like my dad's friends, like the uncles would like hand us drinks
yeah,
and like
amazing,
we would just like chill with them and it was fine. Obviously there was times growing up where one kid went too far at a party and then
of
everyone
course.
got in trouble.
Yeah,
All those things. But yeah, it really takes the you don't really need to be rebellious because you're like, oh, I can just drink at home with my parents who are cool people. So why would I not?
yeah. Which is honestly like we're so lucky we had that because a lot
Yeah.
of people didn't have it then, and some of them still don't have it,
No.
which blows my mind. Uh, Someone not really a friend, more of an acquaintance, and we were supposed to hang out, and she said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, uh, just don't let anyone know that I'm going to be drinking tonight." And I was like, "You're 35 years old. What are you talking about?" It's
Yeah.
like, "No, my parents are in town, so I kind of need to be." I was like, "Well, I mean, sure, it's not my problem, but like people still don't have that, and so
Do you find that people in Canada are have more stricter parents than India? Because I've definitely found that from people coming later. They're like, you guys
yeah,
are way more Indian here than they are in India.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. I think I was actually discussing this with someone. I think every time someone immigrates to another country, their perception of India is the year they left. Like that's their snapshot
Mm.
of India.
Yeah.
So, when they left, that was probably the thing where parents were controlled every aspect of the kids' lives. You couldn't do anything remotely whatever was considered sin, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, in the broader sense of the term. But the India I grew up in was very different,
Hmm.
and our parents. This was also post 1991's liberalization, privatization growth. So the economy opened up. There
Yeah.
was a lot more happening. It was normal for people to go out to bars on a Friday night, on a Saturday night. So those were things that, and for most people, it was like, as long as you're being responsible, you're good. Like
Hmm.
just live your life, but just be safe and be careful. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. Like people here, like who moved earlier, and their children are a lot more Indian than I could think of. My friends here who grew up Bengali speak way better Bengali than I do.
Yeah.
I barely spoke any growing up because, like, we in India we generally spoke in English or Hindi,
Yeah.
especially in Bombay. So it was very interesting when I moved here and I realized, wow, you guys are more obsessed with Bollywood than we are. For
Yeah.
us, it's not really a thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. Like, I remember one of the uh, brown Canadians I met in my first few days when I moved here for school, and I told her I'm from Bombay. Said, "Oh, have you seen Shah Rukh?" And I was like, "Actually, I have. Yeah,
That's so
he's."
cool.
And she was like, "Oh my god, did you take a picture with him?" I was like, "Well, no. This was before selfies were a thing, and that's not a thing we do. Like in
Yeah.
Bombay, you're used to it. It's
Yeah.
you will run into celebrities, actors. They're probably eating at the table next to you at a restaurant, which has happened so many times.
Hmm.
And you don't disturb them. They're going about their lives. And it's typically someone who's not from Bombay who will go disturb them saying, "Hey, can I get an autograph or a photo?" Or whatever it is. People in Bombay couldn't care less. If anything,
Yeah.
for us, it's a hindrance because they're probably causing traffic and interrupting my day to day because a crowd of people have shown up just to
You
get a
just
look at them.
you just brought back like a really traumatizing memory for me. I just remember, I don't know. I don't know if this was when I was visiting. I think it was when I still lived in India. But I
Hmm.
remember being at like a
In
restaurant
Delhi or
in
Delhi?
Delhi, in Delhi, and and I remember being there with my aunt and like my sister, and there was like a buzz around the restaurant, and Akshay Khanna was at a table,
Hmm.
and I have this memory of like giving him a rose, like going up to his table and giving him a rose, and he was just like, "Thanks." And like I cringed so hard because I was just like this like mute 7-year-old just walking up to him, giving him a rose and walking back.
I have
Like
a question. Where did you get a rose from?
probably like this table, right?
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I remember my aunt being like, "You should do this," and I was like, "Wow, what a great idea! Let me go and do this." I'm sure
Oh
it'll leave
my
a lasting
god.
impression on this guy's life. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure he still thinks about it.
I think so. I definitely do.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you see, you're the type of tourist um, that I'm talking about when we grew up
100%.
in Bombay. Like for us, like we used to make fun of such people. Like, yeah, whatever, man. It's though to be fair, if I see Shah Rukh again now, I will walk up to him and tell him how much I love him, which
Yeah,
I
I would.
probably should have. Probably probably the last superstar that we'll see. Um, post social media, it's become very fragmented. But probably the
Yeah,
last man. Speaking of it, did you see his last movie?
yeah, I did.
What did you think of it?
Jawan?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was okay. It was good. It was a good movie because it's a South director, so it was a good movie. It
Yeah.
was just very visceral. It's just a very.
Yeah.
I was just like, Jesus Christ! Like I just wanted to like. I was like covering my eye, and I was sitting next to my poor grandma, who was legit like hating her life in this movie. She was not having a good time. I had to literally use her sari to cover her eyes.
Oh
There's so
no.
many scenes that she was
Poor
like,
thing.
yeah, she was not, especially like the farmer scene.
Yeah.
And all the yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, anyway, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a very entertaining movie for sure. But and the older Shah Rukh looked very,
Oh,
very hot.
so hot. So
I
hot.
think he should fully lean into it.
Yeah.
I think it's time for him to lean into that. But yeah, the director was not really one for leaving anything to people's imagination.
No.
Said this person dies. This is how they die.
Yeah.
This dog will die. Here's the dead dog.
I my God, that
I
when that
was
happened, I
like,
was like, why did you have it was bad enough you showed the gunshot, but then you showed the
yeah,
dead dog? Like, why?
it's just there's no. We get it. The dog's dead. You don't have to show us the.
Or I was like,
Yeah.
here's 50 dead babies. Look at each one. It's like, Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
It
So
just you don't need to do that. But well, I mean,
sorry, spoiler alert for anyone who didn't watch it. I don't know
I
if
mean,
they
if
will
if
now.
if they haven't watched it yet, I don't think they had any intention of watching it
Yeah.
in
Like
the
it was
first
good.
place.
He was really good in it.
No, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
was really good in it. So was
Yeah.
Deepika, but I love her. I'm obsessed with her. So
Deepika was in it. Oh right, yeah. She showed up
yeah.
for that song and her
Okay, her
death.
part was amazing. Come on. She's so good. I love her so
No,
much.
she's great. I big fan, big
Yeah.
fan. I just completely
No Deepika slander on my watch.
never, never,
Yeah,
never. I wouldn't dare. That would be one of the things that I would get cancelled for if I did it.
that's true.
Not that I would. Not that
I
I
would
would.
cancel you for that.
Big fan. Big fan. But yeah, so actually, since we're talking about this, tell me more about growing up with Bollywood here. Because for us, like that, we were surrounded by it, and we got sick of it. But what about in Canada, growing up in the '90s and the early 2000s?
Yeah, I mean, we did watch a lot of Bollywood, but it's really funny because I don't know. I thought this was just something that happened in my family, but like it happens with my cousins. Like we just watch the same movies over and over again. I have seen Hum Saath Saath Hai. Like
Oh,
I love it. It's my
oh my god!
I love it so much. I have the lines memorized. My sister and I used to watch it all the time. Same thing with like K3G, like Constant, Mohabbatein, like all those sappy, 2000s movies. Like even my cousins now, like we send each other things. We're like, we need to watch Mohabbatein again, as if it was like a phenomenal movie. But the songs are great. I will say that. But
Yeah, you don't need to watch the movie to listen to the
it's a
music.
great movie, okay? It teaches you that if you love someone enough, you can open a fence, fence door. All you need is love. So it's a great movie. But yeah, I
Oh
think
my god!
Bollywood just helped us connect with our Indianness, right? If you
Hmm.
weren't watching Bollywood movies, like you weren't Indian, that was our main way of being that and food, I guess, right? Like those are
Hmm.
the only ways. No, there's others. But like I didn't really go. I wasn't one of the kids who grew up and going to the mandir a lot. Like I used to go sometimes with my parents. But there are people who come and they're always at the mandir, or always at the gurdwara. And I wasn't one of them.
Right,
So Bollywood movies was my and my family's way of really
right.
being part of the culture.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Because yeah, when I moved here, I definitely made a lot of fun of brown folk who were born here or like moved here early on, where uh, like for them Bollywood is a way to connect, and we're like, these are terrible movies. Like there are much better movies from Bollywood or even from the rest of India. Like the regional content is like if you haven't watched Malayalam movies, you should check them
Mm.
out. Like that
Mm.
part of the country is producing some of the best movies ever.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to it because of my roommate, because he's Malu. Um, so and Bollywood, and when you compare that to like the general mainstream Bollywood stuff, you realize that the rest of the country is actually making good movies.
Oh yeah, way
And
better. But but
yeah,
back then we were just like, you know, again, I think it's a snapshot of time. It was just like that's what we grew up
right,
watching, and that's what we feel connected to, and those are the songs we dance to at every party, and so we just,
for
that and like
sure.
item songs. I love item songs. If you translate them, they're awful. But growing up, I didn't know what I was dancing
Yeah,
to. So you're just
yeah.
dancing to this, and then you're like, what the heck?
It sounds amazing.
Then you like it actually makes me sick to my stomach. Some of these translations, I was like, Jesus Christ, what is this? But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. No, but that's a good point. The snapshot in time. Like I definitely feel it now. Like I've been away from India for 5 years now. And every time I go back, like things are changing so quickly.
yeah,
And when I go back, I'm like, oh wow, this was not a thing even a year before when I showed up.
yeah.
And I realized that Bombay is no longer home. I mean, it'll always be home in the emotional sense of the word, but it's not anymore because I was standing. This was on my last trip. I was standing outside one of the restaurants that I used to go to a lot, and I was meeting a few friends there. And one of the food delivery guys stopped and asked me where this building is, and I'd never heard the name of the building.
Wow.
And I was like, actually, I don't know. And the guy just was like, whatever, wasting my time. He just muttered to
Yeah.
himself and went away. And then my friends came and I asked them, I was like, yo, where is this place? And they're like, yeah, it's. And I was like, when did this come up? And they're like, last year. And I was like, man, things
Yeah.
are changing. And though I'd like to hope that I don't sort of I mean, as much as we do end up within that snapshot of time, with technology and WhatsApp and social media, I'll be able to stay more on top of what's going on in the country and not ever be that condescending NRI that visits and goes, "Oh wow, I didn't know this is a thing." Because growing up, and whenever people visited from abroad and were like, "Oh, you guys have this?
Yeah.
This is new," and I used to hate it. I was like, "What do you think we are?" like, and now, especially now, like we're on the moon.
That's true.
Like, if anyone shit talks the country, which if don't get me wrong, like every country we have our share of problems.
Of course.
But but a lot of things are going well. I'm like, well, has your country been to the moon? There's only 5 that have been, so chances are they haven't, including Canada.
Yeah, it's a good comeback. I like it.
It's I don't know if you saw, they're planning to set up a base on the moon by 2037.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
we're
really
going.
cool.
It's a lot of exciting things happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna lie, the day when we watched the live stream of Chandrayaan landing,
Yeah.
that was when I was like, oh, did I make a mistake moving out of the country? That was the first and only time when I felt it. I was like, maybe I made a mistake. I mean, I
Wow.
always have the option to go back.
Yeah,
So
you do. But
yeah,
yeah, that
but
was a really big moment. It was really exciting to watch.
it changed things. And as a sucker for anything space related and flying,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the fact that we're not looking at NASA as much anymore. Growing up, that was our thing, and now it's ISRO. We're
Yeah.
looking at ISRO to do the next big thing. And it's a cultural shift that I've noticed as well. Like growing up, in our movies, we would typically see, the West being, it was always the aspirational move out to the West.
Yep.
But I was watching a movie recently. I forget what it's called. It's got Tabu in it. It's on Netflix. She plays a raw agent, so she's a spy.
Yeah.
And it's basically running a covert op in the US.
Oh, wow.
And it's just such a massive cultural change where now in our media and even in our own mindset, we're starting to look at ourselves as, yes, the US is the US, but we're getting there, and we're a lot more effective at getting stuff done. So it was very interesting to see that. Like, we've seen a gradual change for sure.
Yeah.
Like, actually look at Karan Johar's stuff. Like, it
Yeah.
used to be NRI based in whatever the US, but the last movie is completely based, like everyone's in India. No one's like, it's all about being in the country.
Yeah.
The characters are are as Desi as it gets.
Yeah. I know.
So
I don't
there's
want
a
to.
shift happening.
I was going to bring that up, but I don't like. I mean, Karan Johar is problematic in his own sense.
For sure.
But the movie, what I liked, one aspect that I saw was from Rocky Arunie. Like, you have Alia Bhatt who's playing this progressive woman, and she's always in saris. And she's not trying to be like not Indian, and her house is very beautiful and Indian, and her parents are, and like, they're showing the true aspect of it. It's not that she's like some girl boss in a pantsuit, right? Like, she's just wearing beautiful saris at every shot, and she's has this progressive thinking, and I just like I love that. And he even talked about it because he was like, we don't need to go to the West to see progression.
Yeah.
Like, we have it here. So yeah.
It's very different country. For the 4 listeners, if you're not in India, I highly recommend visiting. It's a beautiful country. There's a lot going on, lots to see.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, we've been at this for a while, so thank you, Arunie. I really, really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday afternoon, even though you forgot that we're recording this episode.
I briefly forgot. No, you weren't supposed to bring that up. I knew I was forgetting something.
The moment you said it, I knew I was going to bring it up at some point in the episode. I was like, content, yes, let's go.
Listen, if it's on my calendar, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's on my calendar.
Yeah,
I just woke
fair.
up and I was like, I'm supposed to be doing something right now. I don't know what.
Yeah,
But
no.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, I have one last question
Yes.
for you, which is got actually nothing to do with what we've discussed so far. It's if money were no object, like there's no financial constraints on you,
Hmm.
what would you be doing with your life and why?
I would truthfully be doing the exact same thing I'm doing now. I
That's
would
amazing. I love that.
I would probably just be doing it in a different sense. Like I provide like I want to work with nonprofits and be in that space where we can give free counseling to people, especially people in misrepresented communities, especially people who maybe haven't believed in counseling in the past. And just working through that intergenerational trauma. Like I love what I do. But because we live in the world that we do, and because everyone does need to make money, sometimes we have to make decisions where I can't do this forever because of that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would be doing that. I think I would even be doing more in the community. I would love to be doing more in the community.
yeah.
So yeah, which I honestly never thought I would say 10 years ago. I'd be like, I'm in tech. I'm a Toronto girl. I would be going out for dinner every weekend, which I already did. I would also be doing that. I lied. Okay, I would
Yeah.
also be
Yeah,
eating
you can
out.
do both. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be going to restaurants around the world, eating
Hmm.
amazing food, because that's the only part of me that I can truthfully say is very bougie. I love good restaurants. I love good food. But in terms of my day to day, I think it would be pretty similar, truthfully.
That's amazing. I love that. Actually, yeah, that was going to be my last question, but since you brought up intergenerational trauma, I do have a follow up on that.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to end on a lighter note, but here we are.
Here
Can
we are.
can can we really break generational trauma? And the reason I ask that is again, it's because of a meme I saw. So
Mm.
memes can be fun and they can be educational. Well,
Mhm.
it was a funny meme, but it made me wonder. It made me think. So memes can also make you think. It was this person sitting in therapy. It's like a photo of them saying, "Yeah, I'm working on this so that I don't pass on this trauma to my kids." And then the next thing says, "Fucking up your kids in a completely different way."
Yeah, which I
So
would believe.
yeah, so can we like sure we can solve for the particular trauma that was passed on from say this person's parents to them, but can we really solve intergenerational trauma? Because there always seems to be something that's happening.
Um, if you are coming from a very clinical lens, then yes, there's ways to not. There's things that, for example, if we talk about adverse childhood experiences, which are called ACEs, there's a list of like 8 things where if you do that, it heightens the likelihood of your child growing up and having health problems, mental illnesses, addiction, things like that. And the ACEs are like, family violence or addiction or things that we consider to be very traumatic experiences. Um, in terms of any sort of trauma, truthfully, there's no such thing as solving it. Is just learning to live with it and not letting it impact you as much. So when it comes to intergenerational, it takes a little bit longer because there's intergenerational trauma, and then I think there's intergenerational uh lessons or things that we've taught that may be traumatic for some but not for others. Like
Sure.
even in that movie in Rocky Arunie, right? Ranveer Singh says the same thing. He's like, "Oh, don't drink chai because your skin will be dark." He's like not affected by it.
Hmm.
He just like said it. But to people who may have been born with darker skin, that
Right.
may have been very traumatic for them growing up and being like, "Oh my God, I have dark skin and this is bad in my community." So they have to come to terms with loving themselves and accepting themselves. Um, but is that ever just going to go 100% away? I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think it can. But it just affects people in different ways. For him, it was just like a saying because he's light skinned and he's a boy. But
Right.
if you're a dark skinned girl in that same household, you probably do feel some sort of way about it a little bit more intensely.
Right. Look at that. We taught something new and we used the Bollywood reference on it. this is how we solve problems. We use
This is
Bollywood references and reach 1 billion people.
when you are in doubt, just bring up Ranveer Singh, and you will reach your target audience.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
He is. He looks so good in the movie. Like, given the fact that, like, I think it's testament to him as an actor as well that he was playing a character that is a little more, I don't know what's the right word. A little more rural-ish.
yeah.
Is that the right term? I don't think that's the right term.
But I know what you mean. Like he's playing someone who could have easily been unlikable, but he made it
Yeah, very over the
very
top.
likable.
But he's probably the only guy that can look as hot as he does playing a character like that.
Oh my god, I love him. He's also my favorite actor. So they're like my power couple. And I aspire to
Okay.
be like Ranveer Singh and Deepika. But I
Okay.
loved him. After I watched him in Bajirao, I was like, oh my god, whose man is this? This is wild. So yeah.
So, yeah. So Ranveer, if you listen to this, Deepika, if you listen to this,
Yeah.
we're fans. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Big fans.
Yeah. Fan club
But
over here.
but Shah Rukh will always be number one
Yeah, that's fair.
for life.
Yeah.
Cool. On that note,
Listen.
before we branch off into another very intense life question, Arunie, thank you so much for being on the show. You are amazing as always. Please keep doing all the awesome things that you are. If you haven't, please maintain an Excel sheet of all the things that you do, because clearly you're not able to stay on top of all of your amazing
Rude.
accomplishments.
No, I should. You're right. But no, thank you so much for having me.
Isn't that what you talk about in your podcast? Is brown women should talk more about the things that they do?
Yeah. I am talking about
then, yeah, so maintain a list, and next time someone asks what do you do, just pull the printout and give it to them. It's
like here's
these
your
are all
homework.
the things that you do.
Yeah.
Here's your homework.
No,
it is 4 hours of work, and only then you can talk to me.
I should do that. Just I won't.
You absolutely should. I think it's a very boss move.
Yeah.
For people with accomplishments, they should absolutely do that, because you have so many things going on. Why you should talk about it. It's important. Look, if you don't hype yourself up, who will?
I have you. That's why.
That is true. Yeah. I am the resident hype man, but at the same time, you still got to talk about yourself.
Oh, fun!
I learned this from your podcast.
Yeah.
This is I'm picking it up from your episode. So like you can't say you haven't heard this before.
No. I absolutely try. Actually, my Slack title for the longest time was Hype Woman for the longest time. I love hyping up other people. I do believe in hyping yourself up. It's just hard sometimes, but again, we're overcoming it. But thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Arunie. Or to all the listeners, if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. It does wonders for my analytics. Thank you. One day we will reach more people. But thank you for tuning in.
Thanks.